Hi guys, welcome back again. So now we've done some playing, we've filmed some lessons, we've had a great day here in the Drumhead Studios. We've still got Dom here, and it'd be silly not to take a little chunk of time and just have a little conversation with Dom. The level of knowledge and the level of inspiration that Dom can give to drummers, and does give to drummers around the world, me included, is absolutely incredible. So we really need to tap into that. So I'm going to hopefully try and find out and ask some of those questions that you guys might want answering, and we'll go from there. So we're going to have a conversation, Dom.
Fantastic, Mitch. Thanks so much. It's great to be here. And what you're doing here, I think, is fantastic to allow students around the world to have access to this information on Drumhead. This is just great.
Yeah. So there's so many things. Obviously, we're both teachers. Years and years and years ago, I don't even know when it was. It was a long time ago. I came to you. We met at an event, and I went, right, okay, he's the man, and I want to do this, right? So, and that's where this path became, sort of formed. I've taken some lessons and really kind of used you as a mentor. Yeah. And I honestly believe, and I say this to students all the time, I honestly believe that without certain times in conversation, us in private, I wouldn't be able to do what I do now. Yeah. There was a time where, you may remember this, you may not, you've taught 1 million people since then. We met in a room in Nottingham, okay? And I booked a 2-hour lesson with you. And in that 2-hour lesson, we never touched a drum, okay? We never touched a stick. We were sat by some drums, like here, going, there's some drums over there, and we never touched the drums, okay? And you talked me through certain challenges that I had in losing a 9-to-5 job to do what I wanted to do, which was that, yeah? And that is a 2-hour lesson that changed everything for me. And I think that's the power of what you do on a day-to-day basis, is try and inspire people.
Trying, I always say I try, and that's the intent that I begin the process with. And in all of my intent, there's a positive feeling behind that intent. If there's a positive feeling behind the intent, and the intent is trying to assist people, to lift up and find a level of where their passion is speaking to them. When you're passionate about something, as you were about playing drums and teaching, sometimes in that lesson, we don't need to get to the drums right away. No. We need to kind of open our mind up to prepare the vision of what we're trying to achieve. Yeah. And part of that is the artistic side and the business side. Yeah. And the artistic side is extremely important. That's the learning of your craft. And then there's the business side, which really is the understanding of how can I monetize and make money from that. And the third part is the personal side, which is being in a relationship and having a family and having a life. And to me, it's important to have that life, because by having that life, that's what's going to teach me the emotions about living. That gives me something as an artist in which to express. Yeah. If I'm leading a voidless life of lack of emotion, I don't have emotional content to express. So I need to have the balance of the artistic level and the life level the way it is. The business side is important, and these are 3 different important areas. The business side is important because that's what's going to help me to monetize, to make money, so I can continue being an artist and having a family. So it's the balance of all 3 of those. So I felt that when I meet a student for the first time, I have to qualify them. And what that means is I've got to ask them a lot of questions to find out how they think, what they want, what they're looking for, what they are trying to achieve, and how realistic we can make those results happen. So it really kind of comes down to, I've got to talk and I've got to feel and I've got to kind of find out where that person's at, and then we can kind of come to a place that says, I think you can make this happen, and these are maybe some of the steps you have to follow.
I think that's absolutely right. I mean, I remember. I've just remembered actually. It was 2006.
Wow.
Okay, and it was 2 years, about 18 months before I could lose a job altogether and just do this full time. And I remember leaving that 2 hours. I walked back to my car in Nottingham, and I got a parking ticket. So it was like, really, really annoying. And then I got back in the car and I sort of thought, well, hold on a minute, I just went for a drum lesson and I didn't play any drums. And then I drove home, and then I was a bit like, and then I woke up the next morning and everything seemed to just go, just do that. Yeah. And that's what it was. You sort of planted those seeds and just left me to kind of mull them over, and then all of a sudden it was like, there we go. You need to do the plane's taken care of, but we need to focus on the business side of it.
It is always up to the artist to make that first step. What I can do is open the doors and open up a series of doors that can give you the options of what the potential is. Yeah. And I saw that you were passionate about it, and I saw that you wanted to do it. And look at how great what you've done, which you've, in your teaching and your performing in the school, you're doing some great things, which means other people are benefiting from that passion and that effort that you made. And you're lifting people up with their art form. Yeah. So if you didn't do this and you remained in that other job, you would have not inspired the people that you've inspired. I mean, there are students that I know that I meet that take lessons with you, that walk out of lesson, they're very inspired. Years later on, they're talking about still how great the lessons were with you. So you're reaching people at such a higher level. That's what sometimes making the effort and being self-motivated is about. You know, can I believe in myself to do it? Do I have the self-empowerment? Empowerment means to give power. The first person I got to give power to is myself. Yeah. And you know, listen, is it difficult? Absolutely. But great things are achieved with risk. And sometimes you got to take that risk to try and go there. And if I think about in my life and what I've been able to achieve and traveling around the world, it's been incredible. Someone once said to me, they said, boy, Dom, you're so lucky. You're so lucky in what you're doing. And I said, boy, you know, that's a word that I don't really understand, because I have and continue to work very hard at what I do. Yeah. Not only working on my craft, but working on those three areas. The artistic side, where it's practicing. The artistic side means to be a constant learner. That means you never stop learning. Yeah. At 66, I'm still learning. And when I thought about some of my teachers, the Joe Morellos, the Shelley Manns, the Jim Chapins, right to the end of their life, they continued to learn. Yeah. That was the lesson that they sent to me, just in how they lived their life. How great that was. And their playing continued to change through the years that I knew them. So that was very, very inspiring. So that artistic side is very important to be that constant learner. The business side is how to monetize it. Yeah. So now I have to have business skills. And I say, in the business side, the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer, that's you. Yeah. That's me. Yeah. So if my business is not making enough money, my CEO stinks. I gotta get that CEO to get their act together and have better business skills that can help me to make money out of it. Playing with a variety of different bands. Living in the New York area where I lived, you know, it wasn't a matter of just being a rock player or just a jazz player. You played all styles, and you had to learn them all really well. Yeah. You had to be a good jazz player, a good Latin player, a good rock player. You had to learn your reading, rudimental chops, some classical stuff. You needed it all to survive. And that's kind of what the general, you know, feeling was, just to keep on growing and learning. So that business side allowed me to open up to having a much wider scope of my ability and talent. The personal side, you know, and you know, thanks to my wonderful wife, who's tremendously supportive of what I do, that she is an inspiration to me, because she realizes that something's there and she wants to assist in that. Yeah. And when she assists in that, that's what makes the team so great in what I'm doing, that while I'm traveling the world doing what I'm doing, she's back at the house organizing, you know, and preparing my students and sales, you know, through my online store. So all that stuff. So the team of that partnership is exciting, that I have that with my wife, and then she'll travel with me. She's also a videographer, so she'll video some stuff. So I got a relationship that really works well within, we're both happy at what we're doing and we're able to grow together. Yeah. And it helps the business grow. My artistic skills still is the product. I am the product that makes this happen. So if we can think of ourselves in that way, I think that's a healthier way to.
I think you're 100% correct.
To go through this world, you know, living your passion. And listen, it's not easy living your passion. Yeah. You know, if you want to really live your passion, you really have to have the ability of being able to really commit to something. Yeah. And commitment that's a pretty powerful word.
No, I think you're right. I think that and that commitment, that dedication, which goes through everything. I think, you know, from whether that's practicing or, you know, getting over a little hurdle that you're having, something that you're struggling to play, just that dedication, that persistence to be able to just keep going, knowing that you can get to the end of it. Whether it's a playing thing, whether it's a business thing, whether it's losing, you know, getting rid of a job and doing this full time. I think you're absolutely right in that sort of mindset that you need.
Absolutely, and the understanding of the artistic side, I have to keep on learning. Yeah. So I have to learn to organize myself to schedule, practicing time. I'm constantly picking up new books by different drummers around the world. And I think I've got stacks of books on my desk in my studio, and I'm trying to go through things, and I'm trying to learn and figure things out and playing and really discovering different areas about myself.
Yeah.
So in the artistic side, there's serious, dedicated research going on in what that is.
Yeah.
On the business side, there's research going on in there. At my desk, at my home, on my desk, I've got an iMac computer in front of me, a big iMac computer that's in front of me. To the left of it, I've got a flat screen TV, and I put the news on, the global news on, and I put it on mute. So I've got the news going on, I've got my computer in front of me. To my right, I've got my laptop to my right, I've got my iPad to my left, and I've got my phone on a stand in front of me. And I am Captain Kirk in the Starship Enterprise. I am like running a global business where I'm checking YouTube stuff, I'm going on social media, I'm watching the news, I'm answering emails, I'm answering texts from my phone, I'm calling people. It is like massive multitasking at that desk.
Yeah.
So when I'm there working, I am a businessman working at that desk, organizing all the stuff that I want to do and organizing my traveling and the hotels and the flights and all that stuff that goes with that. And then when I leave to go to the airport, I changed my hat and now I become Dom the artist that's going out. And if I'm going out to play a gig and perform, I'm in that frame of mind.
Yeah.
If I'm going out to do a series of master classes, I'm in that frame of mind. If I'm doing some clinics. So you kind of adapt and change, and that's part of the fun of it all. The personal side, I schedule time with my family and time to take my wife out and go out to a movie.
Yeah.
So we schedule time to do, normal things that many musicians don't see as being normal. Like I'll say, you want to go to a movie, and we'll go to a movie and we'll just sit there and just remove myself from all of the insanity of my traveling in my life and just kind of enjoy that moment and empower that relationship to where it is. So to me, it's the balance of all this here, and balance for me is everything.
I agree.
Is everything.
100%. I mean, I think it was, I may be slightly wrong on the person here, but I believe a friend of ours, Steve White, once said to me a good few years ago, don't let the business sit there. Yeah? Meaning, don't let if you've got something going on business-wise, don't let it on stage with you. Leave it.
It's brilliant advice.
And I'm pretty sure it was Steve who said that to me. And it was
brilliant
like,
advice.
That's great.
Well, listen, Steve is a phenomenal player. He's a top professional in how he carries himself. He really is a seasoned pro. And as a player, when he plays, he gives you 110% all the time when he plays. And as a professional, and as the way he speaks and handles his business side, he's very clear and articulate in what he does. That's really what the standard has to be now, especially now in the 21st century, where technology has overtaken our lives, and there's so much more to do. And you got to separate it. Listen, when I'm here behind the instrument, this is a passion and a love that I have that it really is it teaches me every time I sit behind a drum set, I learn. The feel of the sound of a cymbal in the room that I'm in, and I'm playing, the evolution right here, and I've got an HHX here, and I've got my Chinese cymbal here, and I'm playing 15-inch hi-hats here, and all these different sounds might be different than the last performance I was just at. So I've got to, I go from moment to moment, and in this position with these heads, I've got my Evans UV1s on here, so having the tone of the drums here is different than when I had just on the last drums that I had the Evans UV2s on them. So just that, and the change in the sound and the feel, all of this adapts into that moment, and if I can adapt to it artistically, that's fantastic. And the point well taken, when I get off the drums and we start talking about business endeavors, that's a different shift the way you think.
I think I agree. In terms of you playing, this is something that happened to me literally yesterday. Do you still find things you'd never played before? I demonstrated something to somebody yesterday, which was a 16th note triplet thing. Okay, and I showed him that you could let it go, let your hands go, and you can move it wherever. And I sat down and played him some things and watched him go, whoa, I really want to do that. And then as I finished playing for him and said, right, come on, let's go, let's do it. I said to him, and by the way, that thing I just played on the hi-hat, I've never played that before. In 35 years of playing, I have never, ever played that before. I don't know where that came from. It just came out. And it worked. Do you find that you're still creating new things?
The answer is yes, because I'm still looking for new things. If a person gets into their comfort zone, and comfort zone is a very dangerous place. Comfort zone means I'm there. I have all that I need. I don't need any more.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a person going to work and works a 9-to-5 job and just works that job, doesn't really enjoy the job, but works the job for 40 years. They finish work at 5 o'clock. They come home. They have their dinner. They watch the TV. They go to bed. They get up the next morning and they repeat it.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's a lifestyle that I felt I couldn't adapt to. It wasn't for me.
Yeah.
I've got many friends who do it and do it well and they enjoy it. So for me, the change of every day being different was a part of it. It was a part of the magic of it all. And what I learned is, listen, you know, Shelley Mann, who was one of my teachers, was just a fantastic drummer. Even as he got older, he was still discovering things.
Yeah.
Joe Morello, who died at the age of 82, late 70s, early 80s, was still discovering patterns.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wrote 2 great books, Master Studies 1 and Master Studies 2, that have tons of patterns in there, and he was still discovering ideas that could have easily evolved to Master Studies 3 had he lived.
Yeah.
So they were still discovering. I mean, these guys were getting old. You know, Chapin was 89 when he passed away. When I visited him in the hospital, he was practicing on a practice pad, and I came in to see him the day before he died. He was practicing on a practice pad, and he said to me, he goes, when he walked in, he was on the practice pad. I said, Jim, you know, and the doctor told me he's only got maybe a day or 2 to live. When I walked in and I heard this practice pad being played, I thought a student was playing. I walked in, it was Jim. And he's playing on this practice pad ferociously. He's playing, he's playing. So I walked over to him and I said, Jim, what are you doing? He looked at me kind of confused and said, well, I'm practicing. And he said, and you know, my left hand is getting better. He really felt, and it was incredible. And we talked, we hung out, and after when I saw he was getting tired, I left and went back to the airport and flew back home that night. And the next morning I got the call that he passed away.
Wow.
So I say that continued learning process is you're going to discover. But again, that comfort zone's dangerous, the comfort zone. The comfort zone means I'm content. Once you say you're content, that means I don't need anything more. I'm content. Well, after 54 years of playing this instrument, I'm not content. There's still more I'm trying to figure out. So to me, the learning process is still there. The opposite of contentment is frustration. If you're frustrated, that means you're not content. I like frustration, and I tell all of my students to embrace frustration. Because if you're frustrated, that means you're not there yet. You're looking for the next thing to get you there. And when you find that next thing, you've grown. You might not still be there, but now you're looking for the next thing. So that's, to me, my motivating force of embracing frustration and knowing that even though I'm on this instrument and I'm not totally there, I'm still learning.
I'm kind of laughing there because sometimes I think, sometimes from a personal point of view, I think I live in my own world. And it's nice to know that somebody else lives in that world at the same time.
Oh, Rich, this is what great art is. You know, I was just in Italy 2 weeks ago, and when I was there, I went to see some Leonardo da Vinci paintings. He painted the Last Supper on a wall of a church back in 1494, and the church was bombed during the war, but the wall still remained. So going to see it was they built now this museum around this wall. Okay. So now you're going by and you're walking into a wall that was painted over 500 years ago by this great artist. And when you go and you look at this wall and you can walk up to it, it was just this inspired research of that. This art was so deep. All these great artists were living in their own world.
Yeah.
They were in their own little surrounding of the world, trying to figure out how they can do better. They were in competition with themselves. That's a powerful understanding that I'm not in competition with anybody else. I'm never going to play like many of my heroes play, but I'm going to try and be the best Dom Famularo I can be. So I kind of have to live a little bit in my own world just to have that ability of being able to have that understanding of how I can achieve it.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So before we finish this interview, I'm going to ask Dom a couple of questions which I get asked. People obviously associate the fact that I studied with Dom, and then when Dom's over in this country, we do things together, and I always get asked the same few questions. So now you're going to hear it straight from Dom, and I'm going to ask him these questions, okay? So here's the first one. What's with the tom setup? That's the first question everybody always asks me.
I love that. You know, on my YouTube channel that I have under my name, I'm starting to tell these stories. I call them stories from Fam, and I explain kind of the setup on here and on where I discovered it. The first thing is, when I played early on in the '60s, I was born in 1953. So by the mid 1960s, you know, the Beatles had hit America, and we were playing, you know, pop tunes from the Beatles and stuff. And it was a 4-piece kit. It was kind of a 20-inch bass drum like I have here, a 12-inch tom, 16-inch floor tom, and my snare. Hi-hat, cymbal, one crash. That was the kit. And I always loved that kit because that's kind of where I started. So then as drumming grew and the 10-inch tom-tom came to be a part of what we did, I wanted to add the 10-inch and the 14. So when I put the 10-inch in the first position and the 12 and the 14, now my core drum set was a 10 and a 14 that was here. I didn't like that. Okay. I wanted my 12 and my 16 back there because that was my core fundamental drum set. My other tom-toms, the 10 and the 14, were kind of like additional toms. Yeah. So I put my 10-inch tom-tom in the middle here and my 14 out here. So my tom-tom setup is 12, 10, 16, 14. So in that process, it was kind of interesting because now, because of the position changes and the sound changes, I had to think differently. It made me think differently. If I wanted to get a certain sound, I had to think differently. And by allowing me to think differently, that opened up ideas that I would have never before been approached if I had set up in the normal way. And the good thing about a drum set is there is no normal way. Yeah. You get a piano, you got, you know, the piano is the 88 keys are set the way it is. You don't buy a piano and say, you know, I'm going to put the white keys over here and the black keys over here. There's no, you know, it is what it is. Yeah. You know, guitar, same thing. I mean, you can switch some of the strings around what they do now, but for the most part, it's the same thing. The drum set is really different. We can adjust this not only with the different tones of what we want, but we can really put them in different location. There's a video on YouTube with Papa Joe Jones, who I had the chance of taking a couple lessons with, and he had a floor tom here and a floor tom here. This was back in the early 1930s. Wow. His floor tom to the left of his hi-hat. And when he played patterns like this here. It was so great. And that was back in the 30s.
But you sometimes see that now, but not that far back.
And when someone put the tom-tom to their hi-hat, they say, man, check it out, man, I got this new thing going on. New thing! Yeah. Papa Joe Jones did it back in the 1930s, and there's video footage to showcase. Jimmy Vincent, another great drummer, that was a phenomenal drummer, double bass kit, had his floor toms on both sides. And they played. So the creativity of what we do, that's what's great about drums. You can allow your personality to be set up the way you want to set it up. There's some guys putting their hi-hat now up front. Yeah. They have a closed hi-hat up here. I'm playing with now 15-inch hi-hats over here so I can play open-handed to my left, and my right hi-hat, my 14-inch over here. So I'm changing that around. I put a splash here, I put a Chinese here. I got 2 ride cymbals, a couple of crashes, and before you know it, my personality is coming out on that, and that's the excitement about playing modern drum set. We can go anywhere you want to go.
No, it's right, it's right. And one of the other questions, the one is always about the tom setup, and 2 is always about your China. Okay, that always seems to be there. Yeah. No matter what you've got, whether you've got one crash, you've got one ride, you've got one set of hats or anything, that China's always there. Is there a story behind why it's there?
You know, I normally play with an 18-inch Chinese cymbal this way, and then I put flat a 20-inch Chinese cymbal right next to it. And there's something about the orchestration of the drum kit that to me is very exciting. I like to play with 2 splashes to my left. So I have a 10-inch and a 12-inch splash to my left. I've got an 18-inch Chinese and a 20-inch Chinese, 15-inch hats, 14-inch hats, 2 ride cymbals, sometimes both 20-inch or 120, 121, and then 2 crashes up front. So in my normal kit that I have it, I've got a lot of options, and my cymbal sound, like an orchestra, I can go from very low to very high sounds, very soft to very loud. So having my Chinese cymbal here, there was something about playing it that when I hit it here, I was able to bring a more assertive and even aggressive at times sound out of that cymbal fast. So I wanted that cymbal to be more attack cymbal. Yeah. Where my splash cymbals are more delicate, my crashes are in the mid-range, and I wanted some attack cymbals. So by putting it here, it allows me to really kind of hold this, cymbal and really just dig into that and allow the core of my emotions when I'm playing with sometimes my feet ripping and my hands playing, all hell breaks loose. And I just kind of like the fact that it's got that kind of sound that it delivers me, that I can build up my sound to that level. And it's just really, it's fun and exciting, and it's a little part of who I am.
And why not?
Yeah, and why not? Which is a Billy Cobham line. I said to Billy Cobham one day when I saw Billy playing with his hi-hat was level to a snare. And he was the first one I saw switch his toms around. I give all credit to Billy Cobham. He had his lower and his high toms in weird places back in the early 80s when he was doing that. And it was just so intriguing to see. And when I said to Billy, I said, Billy, your toms are different, your hi-hat's low, you got your right cymbal on your left, but yet you're a natural righty. Why? What's with all this here? And he looked at me and he said, why not? And that really opened me up to say, why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Allow your personality and who you are and the character of who you are to develop and grow, and have fun with the journey of discovering yourself.
Fantastic. I think that's kind of wraps up what we're going to talk, what we wanted to talk about. There was a few questions I wanted to ask, a few questions that have been asked by people to say, can you find out from Dom about this? So yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure having you with us today, Dom.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Mr. Good luck with all this.
Thank
I'm
you.
man. You're doing it. Fantastic, guys. Thanks.